I'd never fought a bushfire before. And although I'm in the Mongalo RFS, I hadn't quite finished my training when the Black Summer fires rolled into our region. So I couldn't legally get on the truck. I thought the next best thing to do was to be a mosquito with my ute and water tank, pump and hose. Very soon I witnessed ordinary people stepping up and doing extraordinary things, working together or on their own to fight a common enemy. I started documenting what I could, and along with contributions from many others on the front line, we've put this film together to remember the challenging times and the amazing people who walk among us. Oh, and one more thing. I'm in this film now and then, but I'm going to ask my friend Nate Farrow to tell the story of a community under fire.
In this life, there is many things you can influence. We wish for things like kindness and support and community, and let others know they're not alone. Some things are not as easy to influence, such as nature.
Fire waiting. Dry month of waiting, the dry mouth of waiting, sweating on something unseen. The one thing coming that keeps you raking and raking, lifting and heaving. Years of bark, tinder, ribbons, sticks, leaves. This stuff should have been shifted. Lifting and heaving and hauling and carting. Checking gutters again. Sweeping dead leaves, ground beyond brown, wind's evil intent. The whole lot could go up for looking. 38, 39, the smoke's done your brain, the heat's the fire speaking, freaking you out. Wanting it here, wanting it over, wanting it never. Texting and waiting, phone pinging. Someone's on their way to join you in waiting. Join you in heaving and hauling. No one saying much. What's coming will say it all.
On November 25th at 9:47 p.m., lightning struck the North Black Range. It was 28 degrees Celsius, with winds gusting 87 kilometers an hour. 60 kilometers to the east, lightning struck again in the Currawong State Forest. No rain was produced. Later that morning, RFS brigades responded to the North Black Range fire. They were unable to contain the fire without heavy machinery.
We're in the middle of the Shoalhaven River here. This is one of the deep ponds. The water level's normally up about that height. There's no water flowing in. There's not much left in here. And Braidwood's got all of summer ahead of it. Mount Pallarang just behind me is on fire. At best, got water till next Easter, which is only a few months away. And if this fire comes through and they have to use a lot of water for that, then they might run out of water a lot sooner.
To everyone that hopped into this, we'll never see this again. If we do, then there's lessons that have not been learnt that should have been very strongly learnt.
I'm the captain of the Mongalo Fire Brigade, a very proud volunteer fire brigade, by the way. We put out fires, and we're probably not the most regimented bunch there, but we get the job done and we come home safe, and that's the main thing.
As soon as the fires were threatening Braidwood, for me it's just a matter of needing to act straight away and use whatever capabilities and resources I had.
I was 15 when we started. I was 16, and then through the duration of the fire I was 17, so I had my P plates, and Luke and I just went out on our own after that.
It's impacted us 5 times from 5 different directions on 5 different occasions. But the most distressing thing about it is the effect it's had on the kids and my partner, Lise.
We didn't actually get seriously impacted by fire until I think it was the 4th or 5th of January. So there was a couple of months there where it just built up and the tension in the community was pretty high.
I think the full range of the emotions hasn't been shown yet. I think we're still going to see a lot more once the flames go away. Then that's actually going to be where the most of that part of the work is done, the emotional work.
The scale of the firefighting effort resulted in just under 6,500 extra firefighters and emergency services coming from every state and territory across Australia, our Commonwealth partners, our ADF, but also teams from New Zealand, the United States and Canada.
The fire's a disaster, but they're also a new beginning. From one door closes, another one opens, I suppose. It's good. We're banding together, and I know we'll get through it because we're already starting to talk about it, and it's not even over yet.
My name is Nate Farrow. I'm really just a blow-in to this district. I came to Braidwood in 2015 with my family. I kind of consider myself an economic refugee of Sydney. I grew up in San Diego, California. Never thought that I'd really be in Australia, but I've been here since 1989 off and on, and really Australia's been my home. And I thought joining the Rural Fire Service was going to be a good way to meet others and also give something back. What happened during the 2019-2020 fires changed my life and changed my view on community and humanity. And it's not my story alone to be told, but hopefully we can share the story that the Braidwood community endured during that period.
Okay, so 20 metre flame height's about a K away from Gillimatong. Is that what you just said?
The North Black Range fire was burning for several days in the Talaganda National Park, and on the 29th of November, that fire roared through the community of Bombay. One of the many homes in the firing line was owned by Matthew Hulse. Crew leader Danny King and his team in the Braidwood 1 fire tanker raced towards Matthew's home.
Black Range Control, Braidwood 1. Be advised, Kawari 1 and Braidwood 1 are now responding west on Glenmore Road to property under potential impact at the end of Glenmore Road, which is about 1.5 kilometres north of Bombay Road. We have grounding fire coming up over the ridge immediately west of that property. Earth moving around, pushing in a containment line as we speak. We're still yet a few hundred metres from it. Over.
I'm in the Rural Fire Service, so I went to that fire, saw it when it started. What I think contributed to this house being saved is I came home with the attitude of just, it is going to come. We had pushed the scrub up. We had our 20,000 litres of water with the proper fittings on it, and that makes a difference. Another contributing factor is I had 3 petrol pumps and 1 electric pump running, so 4 pumps running. I had drums of water laid out. I had sprinklers on everything. Another really important factor, I think, was the relationships. I had actually talked to the tanker captain on this place and told him the turning circle, the water, told him what I had, told him what I was planning to do. So he had a very clear idea of things that will keep the crew safe.
They knew what they were going into, so you could do something. If nothing else, that shows you the benefits of pre-planning. If you make the preparations, make sure you get a hold of someone to show them what your preparations are, so that it can make the difference, because that was the difference. Had we not known, you don't normally go steaming into 150 acres of tea tree. My
neighbours was here, my wife was there, looking, keeping us updated. They're all the things that I think contributed to a successful save. Really, just from the cooperation and everyone working together, all the agencies, but really we've been it could have been a lot worse, and it's not over yet.
We had no idea what was still to come, as this was just the beginning. The next morning, the devastation and community impacts were revealed, putting the rest of the district on notice.
We lost our house and most of our property in the fire on Friday. The fire came through. Our next door neighbours, Chris and Mel Campbell and Andrew Hart, were monitoring the fire for us. They were prepared with fire trucks and IBCs and protective equipment. We had nothing, so we didn't stay. Chris, our neighbour, was sending us reports during the night about where the fire was and what was happening. And then later that night, I think towards midnight, we got a phone call from her to say that the fire had gone through our property, but that she couldn't assess the damage because it was too dark and there was too much smoke. So we had a bit of a restless night, kind of waiting to see what happened, and we arrived back on the Saturday morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, as soon as the sun came up, and came here to see this.
The fire took off about, I think it was 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, and Matthew and I were there, and then the fire just rolled right across the fire break into the pine forest, and we took off. Flew around to my place and watched the flames come leaping out 20, 30, 50 metres in the air. But there was one RFS crew, one grader and ourselves, and we contained that whole line there for a while, which was unbelievable. Matthew Dojo did an amazing job.
Circling over there.
And because the fire was imminent, you know, I think I mentioned the fact that it could come over the hill that very night of our community meeting, and I think it brought reality really hard and fast to some people. I expected it. You're never quite sure with fire, because fire is unpredictable and always will be unpredictable. But there are some things you can gauge and measure, and you know that rate of spread and that sort of thing, and that just meant some of us had a pretty good idea that we were going to be impacted fairly shortly, and we were fast running out of time to a degree. So it was interesting to tell that to the community. We were in for a hard time whether we liked it or not.
On day 9 of the bushfire situation around Braidwood, the fire may break containment under forecast strong winds. This may threaten such areas as Wallace's Gap, Majors Creek, Reedsdale. There is also a risk of breach of containment around the Colombo Road that may threaten the Kings Highway near Black Sally Lane and Dawson's Lane. Darren, good morning. Like everyone, a bit concerned about what's going to happen over here today.
The information that I have at this point in time is that the fire has reached the top of the Butterwing Range,
Right.
so the smoke and flames will obviously be very visible from the Mongalo and Charlies Creek area.
After the first week or so by about the 5th, 6th of December, we basically went out to see some friends, Bruce and also Tim and Janie, just to see how they were. They live out on the range. And the very first of the fireground paintings really came from what I saw in Bruce's eyes. His place, the fire burnt right up to almost the front gate, you know, the front door almost, you know. By chance, as we were coming back, we crested, I think it was the last or second last rise before Braidwood coming in from the south. And we stopped, a whole lot of people stopped, and there was this massive great cloud somewhere over towards Buttawang. We couldn't quite work out exactly where, and in hindsight that was the first of the pyrocumulus we saw. Maddie Holst was outside Deadwood Cafe just telling us about how they'd been out at Fox's Elbow and they'd been reversing the truck in, defending houses, and then when it got too hot they'd hop in the truck and hightail it back out at 500 metres, and then when it dropped again they'd reverse back in again, and they'd been zigzagging like that for hours and hours, and he was wired, and that's really where the second of the 5 gram paintings came from.
It's just jump Mount Elrington Road, and it's just at the back of Bendura property. We need to get down and patrol that Cooma line.
Yep.
Now, if you need to, you can escape out this property out to Brickkiln Lane.
Oh, that's good.
So that's Dave and Judy's place there.
Yep.
Heidi and Brad's here. Now, they've just cut a break in from behind Kathy Noak's place, which runs all the way along. So if you need to, you can get all the way to Wallace's Gap out that way.
Excellent.
Bendura property, that's where the hot spot is now. So come 2 o'clock today, then we could get exciting because we've got to hold this Cooma line. If it pops out over this Cooma line, then there's nothing stopping it getting out to Majors Creek.
I'm from the Bendura area, out along Cooma Road. I'm part of the so-called mosquito fleet that we got named after a while. We were calling ourselves a White Ute Brigade. This came about, same as the original RFS, was this friends helping friends, neighbours helping neighbours. It started off myself, my husband and my brother, Michael. They were in 2 spray units and this ute, and then a couple of mates then just stopped and said they'd help. So it was Frank and Jack and Kiwi and Colin then rang and said he wanted to have a go and learn as what he could as well. And at one stage I think there was about 10 or so of us. Yuri in his truck, Nate. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anyone because it was a pretty hectic time.
The fire had actually spotted from the western side of the Shoalhaven River and jumped into a property at Cooma Road, area commonly known as Bendura. And it was in forested area there, and that forest link directly opposite into the Bendura range, which then would have created a completely different theatre of fire, which would have then threatened the community of Majors Creek.
There was that much fire at that stage that we realised the RFS couldn't cover all areas, and we knew the importance of it not crossing Cooma Road and getting through to Majors Creek because there'd be no stopping it.
The plan that we had involved doing direct attack as it came out onto the open country, and we found ourselves at the point where we had managed to hold that section of fire on its southeastern corner.
We had a few spotters in the area who lived in good vantage points, so that made things a lot easier for us. So we were able to, just sit there and wait and put out spot fires as they occurred quickly in our utes.
Fortunately, there were a number of members from the mosquito fleet, the privateers that were there, and we got to the point where the fire had dropped just as actually our water supply in our truck was almost expired. We vacated, and at that point we directed the mosquito fleet to make an attack on it, and they did straight away, and that combined effort more or less held that fire at that point.
We were a quite tight-knit, organised group between us. A lot of the people in our group are RFS qualified. There was myself and Mark Horan, which are ex-captains of the areas. Mark was captain of Bombay and I was captain of Farringdon for a lot of years. We all had our UHF radios and we were in very tight communication between us and 000 and the Fire Control Centre at Braidwood. So it was a very organised response. We weren't just sort of renegades out running around, getting in the way. And I think it was an important part to stopping the fires from going through to Majors Creek.
Air support continued on the southern side, but at least the head of it was contained and knocked down. And without the support of those mosquitoes, that may not have actually have held. So enormous gratitude to those guys for being there to jump in and actually commence that mop-up work, which was absolutely critical to the outcome.
At a personal level, I learned an awful lot about fires and firefighting very, very quickly. Although the station was being geared up to be an emergency broadcast station, we hadn't actually done anything like this before. The one thing I did feel was that I was doing something worthwhile, and I was doing something that was helping our community to the degree that I was able to do it with the other members of the team here. They need to know that the RFS and the mosquitoes are out there, that the planes are coming in with retardant, and that everything that can be done is being done.
I started off with a firefighting trailer with the Mongalo Mozzies that was donated to me by Woden Contractors, the company I work for. Now I've upgraded to a grader to help with some fire containment lines for the RFS, and also to work along with the Mongalo Mozzies again, and actually to protect my family home. I've done quite a lot of kilometres and kilometres of containment lines. I've been all around Mongalo, out Back Creek Road, down Little River Road, around Braidwood, all around the fire front. We've been putting in some pretty big days, the heavy machine operators and the dozers, and most of the companies that are donating their time to help out with that, so it's great.
The Currowan fire continued out of control, threatening the village of Mongarlo. On the 7th of December, Braidwood RFS was dispatched to assist Mongarlo crews in backburns at Currajuggle. The weather conditions continued to be erratic. Strong southeasterly winds hampered backburning efforts as containment lines continued to be breached. Crews fought long hours to hold the lines.
This is our farm here in the Buttawang Ranges, about 20 kilometres drive from Braidwood. We have just 40 acres here, and we have National Park on 3 boundaries. And for the last few years, we've been developing a native pepper orchard and business here. A native pepper is a plant that grows naturally around here and is a fairly well-known bush food, but not so widely used yet. The global industry, I think, is still about 7 tonnes a year. And we're the first, and I think still the only, native pepper orchard in New South Wales.
Here we are, Tim and Mariah's peppercorn farm, top of Buttawang Road. We're watching the fire as it comes, trying to predict the best way to handle it.
Here it comes.
How are you feeling, Matt? Good. Good, I just want to make sure you're okay here. And if it gets away, the bulldozer's going to move it into the fire.
Okay.
But it's going to stop at the containment line, and all we're going to get is spots. You can get a lot of sparks off them there, like some of them at the top are a little bit like, you can see how much ash is above us. Most of this is dead, but occasionally a live one comes down.
We're neighbours here, so like everyone else, you come out and help your neighbours. We're out here finding little spot fires and helping out wherever we can with the big fires that are coming through through the Buttawangs.
I found out about these fires were kicking off, and along the way we saw the RFS in action, working so hard and so well together that we learned a lot just from watching them. We decided we're going to get in and help. Got onto Stu and said, come on mate, I've got a 2,000 litre water tank, pump, we'll put it together and just start fighting fires. And
I'm like, yeah, I'm in.
We made tanks and fire pumps and put fittings together, and
That's just getting onto that piece.
Just different hoses, all from stuff left over in the sheds, and we started a bit of a fleet called the Mosquito Army.
Yeah, I mean, I'm no one special. There's just a bunch of us out here. I mean, the RFS guys are doing a stellar job, but they're stretched with the resources that they have.
We kind of get there and we're turning up at the end of the action to help, or we're there right at the start of the action so it doesn't get too big before the big trucks turn up and put the fires out.
The Mozzies, in general, what a wonderful thing. It's just a real case of adversity, existential adversity hits a community and the community responds. Self-organisers, everything coordinated. I've never been so grateful to get that assistance.
Braidwood FM, Gordon here this afternoon, and we're going to do an update with Bulge at Buttawang. who's out in the Mozzie crew out in that part of the woods, and we'll find out what he's up to.
Okay, bulge in the Buttawang in the fire truck, which is called Full of Big Sexy, I believe.
The fully loaded fire truck of Sexy. Yes, sir.
What is happening out there?
Okay, so we just finished fighting off a big fire at the back of Tim Winborne's at the Mountain Peppers. Really successful. All the CFA were here, one of the dozers were here, and we just it come up and it hit the containment lines as everybody said it would, and then all we had to do really was stop it from going over the containment lines, which really happened, I would call it methodically, like it was just great.
I know the people out that way have felt, early on felt a little bit forgotten about or isolated or whatever you may, but that's certainly not the case now, and good on you boys, and look, thanks so much, mate.
Absolutely, thank you for all your hard work in there. Cheers.
Oh no, you guys
Thanks,
are doing
Bulge.
hard work.
Take care.
Thanks, Bulge.
Stay safe.
Stay safe, mate.
He's a happy man, tired but happy.
Well, happy enough.
We realized this was not going away in a hurry. Sharing information with increased sophistication and new distributions of dwindling resources became a necessity, a rallying response shared by many communities across the nation.
Well, lucky enough to be a firefighter with Fire Rescue New South Wales for 15 years, so sort of fortunate to have some experience and knowledge around fires and how to be prepared. I became involved with the Mozzies, the Mongalo Mozzies, in the early stages after working alongside the RFS. Realised there was a lack of communication and coordination between the Mozzies and the RFS. There was a little bit there, but I just thought it could have done with a bit of fine tuning. So I spoke to my mate Bulge and Stu and put a few things together, and it morphed into what it is today.
Adam, I'm rolling with Nick too. I don't know what we're called, but Nick's unit. Yep. Yeah, I'll be with him in that.
First of all, thanks for coming and thanks for volunteering your time to give us or give the community a hand. It's fantastic. Our role is to position ourselves in areas that you've got a really good vantage point of the fire. Report back if you're seeing, if it's coming out of the bush or it's 50 metres away and it's pluming up, starting to get a bit more active. There are times that you put the call in. Regular reports would be great, because then we can all sort of know what to expect on the oncoming time.
And do you want to keep those reports on the app, are you saying? Like that's not really a UHF sort of thing? We're just going to keep those ones?
If you can pass it on the UHF, obviously it's quicker, but just the range, I'm thinking they may not get it across. So
and other people might not get it.
So maybe just that's a good point, Holly. Maybe just put it on the chat group. If you don't have the chat group, you can, if you get WhatsApp, I can add you to that chat group. If you see the bushies around, get out of their way, let them do what they need to do. And just remember, we are only there as an assistance role, so to there to help them out, not to compete to get to that fire. That's for them to do.
Don't try and put it out before it gets to fire break, let it burn to it, that's what its job is, and you'll let it put spot fires out to jump that fire break.
Yeah, perfect.
You need to be level-minded. The only way you can be level-minded when shit starts getting really hot is you need to be hydrated. So you really honestly need to look after yourselves out there. Remember, everyone else is listening, so keep communications fast and concise. Remember, water, if you run out of water, that's it, stop, pack up, out.
Bulge, my husband, and Stu, our property mate, were just out there trying to stop the fires in our little area, making sure that our back paddock was safe And then over time, while these fires have just continued, we've noticed they found more and more people that were doing the same thing. And so that's kind of all come together now. So many people were out there, working alone, and now we've created this community of people working together, and it's quite magical, really. I think I was fairly well prepared for the first fire because I'd seen a lot of video of what they'd been doing, like a lot of footage, and I just had it in my head that whatever was going to happen, I was there to shoot the hose. And knowing that we weren't doing anything that wasn't going to be safe as well, like they'd already been out for a few weeks, they'd already learnt quite a bit about what was working, what wasn't working. They weren't going to put us anywhere that we shouldn't be, so I felt pretty confident about that.
The fire's not out till every spark is out. Mopping up after the front is something that we can all do. We need the RFS out there on the front line, and they just don't have time to go back behind and pick up all those embers and all those little spots and put them out. The main thing that I found really important was like trying to cover places that there just weren't enough trucks to get to. So many people did everything that they could to help out, and that we had so many mozzies on hand too. It was just great. I don't know what we would have done without having such a good band together. It made so much difference.
I walked from our place just to have a look around, to come up to visit Tim and stay here.
Yep.
And then Dave and Gail just shooting past, stopped, said, "There's a fire up there."
Wow.
So that was going off to the pines.
Yep.
I might actually just do the walk, go around. I won't go that way. I'll go that way because everything's freaking falling down.
We stopped in to do a check on the burning activity, and we pulled past Tim and Nick at the peppercorn farm just to check that things are safe. Alright, so it's 1 a.m, done our run. I think we should head home. What do you think, fellas? Good time.
Thanks to the mosquito fleet for such a good job. Doing awesome. Without these guys, we'd be in deep shit. Hey.
Braidwood had sort of become like the frontline base for a whole lot of things for miles, and every day just the queues of all the trucks refuelling. I've said to people, probably a bit like a RAF base in the Battle of Britain. They're just endlessly coming in, refuelling and heading back out again.
We've got some worsening weather conditions coming through tomorrow and then again on Saturday. So the battle's not over yet, unfortunately.
How are things looking in terms of the speed of the fire, let's say towards the Nerriga area?
Looking ahead and looking into Saturday, we are going to see some of the influence come through in the afternoon, so that will then obviously continue to push that fire north up towards the Nerriga region. So we'll try and continue that progress and just push tracks through wherever we can up on the western side of the fireground.
We've had a new ignition on Main Road 92, the Braidwood Road, at Tuyanjara, just sort of east of Tuyanjara Creek. That was on the southern side, with the fire progressing to the east. Unfortunately, the fire's jumped Braidwood Road and is now on the northern side of Braidwood Road as well, and we've got crews responding out there in aircraft. The weather conditions are fairly dire today as far as fire weather goes. The top temperature, we're looking in the upper 30s, and that's probably around Mongala and that Braidwood area, and it may get a bit higher than that.
Braidwood is a rural township surrounded by farmlands and paddocks, ringed by national parks. It's nearly impossible to navigate within the burning forest, so waiting for the fire to emerge in an area that can be navigated is the only option. Waiting for the fire to come out in the grasslands has added challenges. Without windbreaks, the wind speed accelerates, and the easily combustible grass fires can accelerate at the same speed as the wind. The speed and erratic nature makes these grassland fires extremely dangerous.
You look at this Tuyanjara fire and how it's heading northwest, it's sort of got the potential to come back, over in that Nerriga area. The countryside up there just looks so remote and inaccessible that, there's not going to be a lot there they're going to be able to do.
By the 19th of December, the fire had its foothold in the Monga forest, which effectively closed the King's Highway, isolating the township of Braidwood. It was the first crown fires that I personally witnessed and impacted a much wider front, extending from Reedsdale all the way to Narragansett. It was the 21st of December.
The captain said, we're not going to stop this, we need to go to property protection immediately.
It's about 4, 5, 6 maybe mosquito utes, trailers, tanks, whatever, and an RFS truck. They've been through with the grader and the dozer and cut a containment line.
We knew that the Sulu was going to kick in at some point and send the fire back our way. It was unbelievable how quickly and rapidly conditions changed. It went from 100% visibility to 0 within a matter of minutes. And the sky turned bright red. So the Mozzies placed themselves in strategic positions around the farm, which we'd spoke about prior to the fire front coming.
The footage you see here has not been colorized. It's like being in the belly of the beast.
And thankfully the RFS were here as well for property protection, which I really thank them a lot.
Real southerly. Yep. Then just to give you scope, that's us there. That's where 620 Bottlewang is.
Yep.
About a K east of our position.
Where's our house?
Up here. That's that cluster there is our house.
Right.
So that's probably 4.5 Ks northeast. So
stay here and fight.
Stay here. Yep.
Stay here and fight.
It was about 3 Ks behind us before, and now it's just behind us. So we just waited with the RFS and the other mosquitoes and see what we can do to defend Adam's house.
Mosquito brigades were formed as neighbors helping neighbors in extraordinary situations. However, when the fire front approached the Honey family farm, both RFS and citizens had to question their position of fight or flight. A 40-degree day with 50-kilometer winds on the wrong end of the fire front was absolutely terrifying. But knowing we were united somehow helped. The weather experienced on the 21st of December was unrelenting. It can only be described as a blow-up day. 60 kilometers to the north, Sassafras was hit hard. The district of Narragansett was next. It felt the full force of the fires.
One of our local firefighters said if you're going to evacuate the children, do it now.
It was always the understanding that the evacuation centre was going to be the hall.
So we spent most of the day doing one of the most dull tasks you can.
Yes.
Escorting a grader. So we're watching the smoke columns around us, and there were a number of them.
The Saturday we had the call from one of the firefighters, and she said the fires are at our place, get everyone up to the hall, which was the evacuation point at that stage. So I looked at Sarah and said, you know, this is it.
The wind change hit. I radioed the grader driver, get out of there quickly. We knew that we would be needed further north up in Narragansett later, and this absolute avalanche of fire just appeared.
The water carrier, we got the driver to jump into our truck, and he was sort of saying, in 10 years of doing this stuff, I have never seen anything like this.
You know the containment line we just put in?
Yeah. The small ones, all those areas,
yeah. Holy boy.
Quite an eerie feeling, not knowing what was out there. It started getting really smoky and really dark. And
it was a fire service car that came first back to the village. I think it was Ridgeway, and they asked for everyone to be in the hall so that they could talk to us, and they said like the conditions have become too bad up there, and they asked to evacuate everyone back to the pub.
1 minute you're concentrating on getting the water and keeping the water going on the roof, and just then all of a sudden you've got 40 people.
The RFS teaches you that when you know something bad is about to hit, you go for a safety refuge. As long as you stayed put, no one was going to get hurt. It wasn't going to be very pleasant, but you'd be safe and you'd still be alive at the other end of it.
There's probably one stage, I think, when the truck started hosing the front of the pub and the water was blasting, and then you saw the bulldozer over in the paddock there, and that's when the fire truck, somebody jumped out and told everybody to get inside, and things sort of started to get real, and then you sort of started seeing the embers and everything coming down.
As we started driving back to Nerriga, it just got darker and darker, and I think we all knew that something else profound was about to happen. We headed towards the village. I think we passed the schoolhouse at that point, and David just sort of said, "Stop! There's something I've always felt passionate about." And he called in to the command and said, "We want to go back and protect the schoolhouse." And that's when the Div commander said, "Oh, could you do with another truck?" I went, "Yes, please." So he sent one of the ACT truck with us, and that was really, really handy. The sky just went black, and the only time I've seen that before is during the Canberra bushfires in 2003. So black, I think we actually had to use torches to see what we were doing, and this was at sort of 5:30, 6 o'clock in the afternoon. I think this community would appreciate it if it was attempted at least. You can't replace life, but you can't replace history either.
Fire guys, they talked about how bad it was and how they'd never seen anything quite so ferocious, and it wasn't until you actually saw the footage from the Kawula that you realised how bad it actually was. And
it got dark, and then it got quiet, and then all of a sudden the fire was there.
The fire was coming from a couple of different fronts. We knew it was in front of us, but we also knew it was behind us.
The black leaves come floating down, and then a few embers, and then more and more and more, and it was just that moment of pause before you know something bad's going to happen. And I turned to you and I said, "David, you do realise I'm absolutely terrified right now?" And you just looked back at me and said, "Yeah, but you know you'll be okay, right?" I said, "Yep." And then we just got on with the job. The trees were just kind of vaporising in front of us.
Everything was just so hot and dry and windy, and the noise.
The smoke in your eyes, the sound of the wind, and the crackling and the noise of branches breaking off, and these explosions from all those gas bombs, and they just kept going and going, didn't they?
Aren't we supposed to be hiding in the truck at this stage? But I sort of thought, no, back to my training.
I knew we would be safe provided we stayed where we were. The real question was whether we had enough water to actually see the job all the way to the end, and we did just.
I have no idea. It went forever. How long did it last?
I have a feeling it was probably only about half an hour, maybe 3/4 of an hour. And then there's this awful time, certainly for a crew leader. I know I've always hated this part of the job where you've got to make a decision. I think we've saved what we can here, but we've got to move on and do something else. There might be something else you can save in the time. But am I leaving too soon?
You do the Majors Creek Tango, the Talaganda Waltz, the Bombay Foxtrot, all the way to Harold's Cross. Do the Braidwood barn dance, the Mongalo twist. Let's raise a glass together to all the things we'll miss. The sound of rain falling on the roof, water filling the dam, green fields and flowing rivers, one day will return again. When the rain comes down, that bittersweet sound. When the rain comes down, again when the rain comes down, that bittersweet sound. We all gather round, drink in the rain. I remember a time when the rivers were all full. We'd dive into the water, so deep and cool. Now the creek beds are dry, land's like a tinder box. When the reservoirs run out, what will become of us? Fire tears through the bush now, burning everything in its way. Those on the front line fight it, the rest of us pray for rain. And the rain comes down, that bittersweet sound. When the rain comes down again, when the rain comes down, that bittersweet sound. We all gather round and dance in the rain. We do the Majors Creek Tango, the Talaganda Waltz, the Bombay Foxtrot, all the way to Harold's Cross. Do the Braidwood Barn Dance, the Mongalo Twist. Let's raise a glass together to all the things we'll miss. Do the Reedsdale Rumba, the Monga Forest Mamba, the Araloon Polka will keep us on our toes. The Nerriga Pride of Erin, the South Coast Samba too, the Snowy Mountains two-step. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
This is Lucy, I think, or Tess maybe. They're so alike. I've got 3 here. We've had 2 brought to us in 2 days from Araloon, from the edges of the Araloon fire, and we're just assuming that the mothers are burned because one of those little ones had scorch marks on its back and its little burned fur, and the other one had burnt feet. So they've certainly crossed hot ground and just been wandering and wandering and wandering. Because they're only this big, they don't know what to do. They've lost their mother. Normally they'd be following their mother until they're this big. So that's what we want. We want them to be a bit standoffish. So he's getting a bit cranky. The PR's been important because it's brought a lot of donations in, which is allowing us to do the food drops. It's all mapped. Good old Felicity Sturgis has set up a map and pin drops on it. The Narg Territory, Native Animal Rescue Group, which operates in and around the Braidwood district, 70% of it's gone, and the part that's left is just the part where there isn't a lot of wildlife. You can see their little scars left over from burn marks. This is Ember, of course. This is her little pouch. Native Animal Rescue Group's only a very small organisation. There's only a handful of us. It's about 6 or 8 active carers, and I've got about 40 or 50 members. It's only a little group, but we do our best for people.
We're here because my mum and dad are that's their property, just straight behind us. So we've been able to give them a hand and continued after that's burnt to
give everyone else a little bit of a hand.
I think the thing that we've noticed is just all the people in the community getting together to support the other members of their community, whether, you know, like they just need a little bit of extra support at any one time with the spot fires. I guess at the minute it's a lot of property protection, and whatever we can do to help is, I think, valuable and important to us.
Yeah, take a little bit of pressure off the RFS, I suppose, help them out a little bit.
Out the back.
So what we've done to try and coordinate all the different assets that we've got available to us is we've created a bit of a whiteboard here so we know where people are roughly and what time they're at there and what kind of capacity they're holding as well. That way we cover off that we're not losing everyone to one fire or another, that we've always got somebody in different locations around the area. The main way we're passing around information is we've created a WhatsApp group. We get information passed, which is like up to the minute information, so we're not having to wait for anything to come through the radios. We are still listening to the radios, but yeah, most of the stuff between us, between the Mosquito Army, is coordinated through the WhatsApp and through boards like this.
What are conditions like out there at the moment?
The southerly just picked up here,
Right.
and which is getting pretty strong, and it's really hot and it's quite dry.
Yeah, okay. And it's a real hotspot area, that whole Tudor Valley Road area, the Monga area and the Northangra area.
The SES guys are down there on the Northangra Road cutting down all the really dangerous trees, and some of them are huge.
Oh, okay.
The guys and girls out there, like on the chainsaws, and they're just hooking in. Like, it's good to see.
Oh, that's excellent, isn't it?
Yeah.
And look, and that's one of the warnings that the RFS have been putting out about if you're in burnt areas to watch out for trees that, you know, will topple over. Well, I think what the SES are doing is certainly a very important part of this clean-up.
On the 31st of December, I hopped on the truck with the Farringdon RFS. The briefing at the command center that morning was a very tense situation. In some instances, it could be over 100 kilometers round trip from your home, leaving your own patch and your family vulnerable. With trepidation, we headed out towards the Budawings.
I had thought we were pretty well protected by then. We had 2 kilometres of black all the way around us. We'd lost almost all our forest. We had a few stands left. We had the orchard still and the cottage and the shed. So I was pretty happy, and that was a day of extreme fire danger. I think it was 43 degrees that day in town and strong northwesterly winds. But having so much black around us, I was pretty comfortable. I should mention I work part-time for Fire and Rescue New South Wales, and because it was such a high fire danger day, and I went back on the truck and we went off to Charlie's Forest that day and other places, I thought it was pretty safe here. But the fire that had burnt 3.5 weeks before through the forest, that forest burnt again in just 3.5 weeks, which was something I hadn't expected. It came through and it burnt the orchard.
I'm heading down to a mate's place to see how he is. He's trying to stay and defend, and they've evacuated Araluen, so just been out to another friend's place, and a whole lot of mosquito firefighters out there, so under the control out there now, so I'm going to go down to Araluen and see who my friend is. The smoke is so thick, I've never seen anything like this.
Gee, nice to see you guys. See you show up, mate. Oh, tell you what, it's getting pretty thick, so...
Are you okay? What's
at the
going on
moment
here?
we're okay, but we've just checked on a few of our neighbours, so we think we're all okay. It's just a waiting game now. We know that wind's going to shift any minute, so mate, just having someone else to come help is awesome.
Middle of the day, 1 o'clock, it switched round to the southeast and it came screaming up the other end of a bit of forest there, screaming up Monga Lane, really torching it into the canopy. And I was in the house having, a cup of tea, completely exhausted and utterly oblivious to the fact it was actually burning through the paddocks. And when I went out to have a look, oh no, not again. And then later on, I think it was coming into George Sheriff's place, Baringa. That was pretty bad there. So yeah, the southeasterly was the one that was causing the trouble there.
The fires have been going by that stage since the end of sort of November, and for us it hit here on New Year's Day. So the week or so leading up, We knew that it was coming. There wasn't too many surprises. The weather patterns, the wind patterns, we pretty much knew where and when it was going to sort of hit. So, but there was a lot of really tired sort of, be they Mozzie crews, RFS guys. They've been fighting this for 6-8 weeks so far. So there was a lot of really tired resources, and you had to, everybody here was looking after their own, and who hadn't been already out looking after everybody else's, which most had been doing. Yeah, it was just, here we come, we know it's here. Exactly which day and from what direction we're not sure, but it's preparation. And we'd had a huge lead up time, which was lucky. And for a lot of those earlier on in the fire, they didn't get that lead up time.
I'm Terry Daniel. Happy New Year. Thousands have been spending the night without power on the New South Wales south coast due to faults in the power network caused by bushfires. Hundreds of firefighters are battling a number of blazes burning at a watch and act alert level between Bega and Bateman's Bay.
G'day Tom.
Hey mate, good to see you again.
You too, thank you.
Well, we've rounded it up pretty well.
Yep.
But we're just about out of water.
Yep.
So we just need a bit of a hand in along this edge here. Just see poor old Nick Munnings down there. He had fire again. We knocked it all down on the river yesterday afternoon.
Jeez.
Put a dozer trail through last night on Butterwing.
Yep.
And I reckon he's working on about 2 or 3 hours sleep a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
He looks tired.
Steve's place was under threat yesterday afternoon. Managed to knock it down.
We got the house up the top of the hill and the main front came through and I managed to get plenty of water on it. But then running up the top of the hill to get more water and back down to the bottom again, did that a couple of times, and I was getting pretty rattled. And then Bulge and
Holly and Stu.
Holly and Stu turned up, and the moral support was probably meant as much as anything else. So
what we're doing is supporting the RFS with water from my car, my tank. Filling their tank up so they don't have to go anywhere and fight the fire in the forest.
Saturday's predicted to be a very, very bad weather day.
Yeah, Saturday we're back to severe conditions.
So I've come to my friend's place in Araluen to check on him and his wife, and it started raining. And so the fire has started its weather pattern that makes a cloud formation that can actually cause the rain. So you can see it on the car here, but it's not much, and it's actually just about stopped. Nowhere near any sort of rain that will have effect on the fire.
Fire wasn't going to put itself out, so it was just all our mates and stuff that needed a hand, so we chucked the pot on the back of the ute and away we went.
There was one day there at Currajug. We went out there because there was a few family and friends had themselves in a bit of trouble, and there was a major ember attack and we were sort of stuck in there, so we thought we might as well stay and fight, but we ended up getting a few burns from embers and all that sort of thing, but we saved a few properties, a few houses and
a lot of fences. Saved a lot of fences.
There's a plane going by, burnt out. And we got a couple of dozers straight across the road from us, put in a containment line. And the fire trucks there standing by to protect the dozers as well. She's all happening at Warren Backer, Honeywood Farm.
Looking at the Mosquitoes app, and a friend down in Araleuen's written this message, and I thought it was quite telling. We're told that the RFS update can be 12 hours out as the operators are swamped at the moment. Fire went 30 kilometres in that time. Bugger. We've been told that we're on our own. So when the time comes, any help will be fully received. Thanks to Nick and others for their help. Yeah, it's just the way it is at this time. Okay, RFS cannot be everywhere.
Hey, g'day. Look, I'm sorry, mate, you can't get through to it. Oh, it's you, Matty. Yeah, that's all right. Mosquitoes are cool.
How are you going tonight, Jen?
Oh, you know, another day in paradise, eh? 7 at night till 7 in the morning.
So you'll be here till 7 in the morning?
Yeah.
You're a good stick.
I know. I'm worth more money.
I'm standing on the Araluen Road. The smoke is so thick, as you can see in the headlights of the car. So tomorrow, Saturday, is going to be the big day of 40-something degree heat, extreme fire danger. So.
Yeah. Oh, Ben Gleason. I haven't met you before. How you going, man?
He's ScoMo 2, if you like.
Your safety's got to be your first priority, regardless of everything else that you want to do. You've got to think of yourself. That's why I'm here today. I can't defend my place by myself, but I can help others. We've got to all stay together. If your mate's in danger, grab him and pull him out and go with him. Don't try to be a hero and stay in there. It's doing unprecedented things. It's jumping 4 and 5 and 10 kilometres in front of itself. If that nor'wester gets up and comes today, that's what's going to happen.
We got spare goggles, we got spare masks, we got spare gloves for anyone that doesn't have them. Hydrolytes, take a packet of them for your trucks. And Ryan and Naz are doing up all the food packets. Take the peaches, take the bananas. Don't be cheap about it, just take them, yeah? That's what they're there for.
Well, this is Mongalo, and Charlie's Forest Road is heading out this way. And as we were looking at on the other map here, the Wog Fire's already come through this section. So I'm just hoping these guys can draw on where the track's going to go.
He's told me and a few others.
Just have these as a backup if their electronic comms go down. I think the big one for me was out on Northanger Road where it was 43 degrees. A fire that we'd been trying to monitor and keep in its place for a few days was coming towards our break, and the wind changed. What's on the other side of here?
Burnt, but the Tyndale Bisco's house, and the risk is embers across the river.
You hear that? So it's heading towards Tyndale Bisco's house, but also back onto burnt country.
Yeah, so it's all burnt.
But there's enough unburnt to give us embers down on the river.
I suppose the Honey's place is the next concern if it swings around to the north.
Yeah. There's 2 fires down in Currawang Creek at the moment as well. So we just need to monitor this area and the patches around the edges. So from here we'll go back to the other side of this forest, only just there. And it's going to come through to Honey's, isn't it? Check it out. Just make sure, because tomorrow with the southerly, we don't want it to come back up to the house.
We tried our best to get that fire out, but kept spotting, and eventually we just had to give up because it's spotted and it took off into the forest. So now we're going to the property along to see if we can defend that as it comes back out through the forest. So this is now the containment line. A lot of people being hit really hard today. So there it is. You see that? Here she comes.
We did everything we could, and then out of nowhere, we expected the change at 9, came through at 6, picked up all that ash and all those sparks and all those embers and just threw them across, and that fire went far and fast, and we were in the firing line. That was a big night for me. And yeah, we lost that one, we got overrun.
At 6:30 p.m. on January the 4th, the temperature was 43 degrees Celsius. Southeasterly winds, gusting to 60 kilometers an hour, pushed the fire across Northanger Road. The fire reaches Little River Road, in a finger formation about 700 meters wide. The village of Mungarlo is now threatened by fire on 3 sides. On the same day that the good people of Mungarlo were battling the fire, the community of Araluen and the Dua Valley bore the brunt of one of the most intense convergences of 2 fire fronts. Another catastrophic day.
There's no stopping it. There's no heading it off. It was basically just asset protection and making sure everyone was safe. This little Cat 9, me and another fiery were just running between 3 properties with 800 litres of water, doing what we could, and we'd empty the tank and we'd look behind us, right, we've got to get back there and fill it up. Sometimes we only filled up half a tank because we knew if we didn't get to that little spot fire, then it was just going to take hold in that farmer's hay shed or his machinery shed. And it was just, that was work. That was incredible work, and it was an incredible effort by everyone. And that was all down to Tim. He directed the traffic, and it was just amazing. And even like the Mozzies, they were coming up, and Tim, what do you want us to do? Where do you want us? Once again, I just can't speak highly enough of our captain at the time, Tim Reynolds. He just led from the front, and he just went out every day. And it was just incredible to watch him go. And then I just sort of felt obligated that we needed just to follow him. Because when I was up north, it was more just putting in containment lines and just seeing the fire front come through. But when it's actually, you got your back up against someone's house and you're hazing the fire down, it was a pretty hairy experience. We only had an active crew of about 5 or 6. And that's it, it was relentless. And they all just put in the hours, and you just put in as many hours as you could. You know, we're just volunteers out there, and we just worked and worked and worked, and it's the same as every other brigade, I suppose, around. It's like you just don't realise how much work goes into that summer.
I grew up on a property in the middle of the bush, and we had a few fires go through there. I was also in Canberra when the Canberra bushfires happened, and I was actually also in Melbourne when the bad Melbourne fires happened. There's no coincidence there about when those fires started or anything like that. The weather we had down there on the 4th of January was 49 degrees. It was 49 at my house. Some people recorded 51. There was 60 to 80 kilometre northwester for most of the day. And then in the afternoon, we had a southerly change that came in at about 80 to 100 k's while the temperature was still up. That southerly brought some cooler wind, but it did a lot of damage. The community working with each other, so if someone didn't have a water cube, someone else would lend them one. Someone needed some irrigation line, they would get that. We were driving around. We had one local down there who's a D6 bulldozer. He didn't get off it for 5 days. He just went around to everybody's properties, cutting in containment lines, putting in fire breaks and patching up escape roads and stuff like that. So there was a lot of prep. It didn't all come down to luck, but still the day was really don't put that in. Terrible. Yes. Yeah. When you have a day like that, which is 49 degrees, howling winds, and monstrous flames, you suddenly feel quite mortal.
The sirens from the Mongallo fire shed made sure I was on their WhatsApp, and I felt pretty honoured that, because I didn't feel like a siren, but they completely included me in all of those communications, and it made a real difference to being able to kind of just stay steady. And the women there, I don't know if I would have got through it as well as I did without the friendships that I developed over that period of time.
All the mosquitoes that turned up in the RFS, hell of a mess. Cars off the road, fire everywhere.
I really needed to be at home to protect our house, and being out here on my own was pretty stressful. And Paul sometimes had, 14-hour shifts fighting fires. So when the shit did really hit the fan, not at our property, but the underlying thing is you just didn't know if that was going to happen or not. We'd already turned on our sprinklers once before and lost half of our water. So we agreed that he would stay and I'd go to the shed and find out what was going on and talk to the sirens. And that was the 4th of January. We got a call from the captain, Paul Bott, saying the fire's heading towards the fire shed. And that was a very humbling moment. We've got a little small ute here, it's tiny, and we just borrowed a cage to make our own mozzie ute, which I told Nicole, who was managing the area at the time, that we had that, and she said, can you get Paul to come and put that ute in front of the fire shed? And I'm like, it's only 750 litres of water. She said, Ro, we need it. And then we get the call that The fire had gone through another area and headed straight for Little River Road, which was going to cut the town off. Our little tiny truck that with that amount of water on it only went 40 kilometres an hour, and I am not exaggerating, into the fire along Little River Road, and there was another volunteer firefighter that went with him in our truck. So I followed him in the pitch dark along Little River Road in my Honda. He pulled over and I couldn't see a lot, I could just see fire. So I really shouldn't be here. I realised that I'd taken a huge risk by following him in there, so I dropped the phone. It was still on, there was a lot of swearing. It's just totally fucked up. All I could see was smoke and lights and fire. It's really scary, and they're spotting this fire up here. I don't want him stuck in a little tiny fucking truck because he's just spotting off the back of it. There are a few fire trucks around, but not many, and this is where we didn't want the fire to get, and I guess I didn't realise how close to Little River Road it is, and now we know. I couldn't go through to Braidwood because I just didn't know. My intuition said, you don't know what's beyond here. And then I noticed some other trucks going past and some Mongalo mozzies. And I just thought, I'm just in the way on the side of the road in an emergency. I did back into something. Oh, fuck. Obviously backed into something in my car, in the panic. I don't know what to really say other than I think I need to get out of here.
Simply put, we could not have coped without these ladies and the community's help to be feeding, look, I don't know how many meals out, 3 times a day and all that sort of thing. It's just been an astronomical effort, and it all had to come from a standing start. We've not dealt with anything like this on this sort of scale before. We've had to put a few sandwiches together to send the boys out. This time we're sending out multiple strike teams for weeks on end.
People jumped in and helped us.
Yeah,
and
they put their life on hold.
Yeah, and
for us.
And all the businesses that we dealt with, they understood that we were under stress too, and they just accommodated us. We couldn't have done it without them because we had nothing.
Oh, a little shout out to the local businesses,
Absolutely.
I think. You know, they were fabulous.
So the Braidwood Butchery, IGA Braidwood, and of course Braidwood Pharmacy, and also the bakery. And we just couldn't have done it without them because they would see us coming and they would just go, what do you need?
Yep. Yeah, look, here the ladies at Mongalo, Nerriga, Gundillion, Araluen, everywhere, just people came to the front. If there's one thing that these fires will be remembered for, it's the standard of the catering.
Little kids.
It's sort of little kids with their $5 that they had in their piggy bank, and they said, I want to do something for the fiery, so they'd go down and buy a box of muesli bars and some chocolates and bring it up and say, can you put this in the snack packs for the fireys?
It really meant something, coming back in at stupid o'clock sometimes, and there was a meal there waiting for you. And it wasn't just something slapped together, it was something that these ladies that I'm proud to call my friends had put together for us, and it always felt that extra special sort of thing, sorry.
It was made with love.
Scott, who worked at the bank at the time, was the fire captain for Braidwood, and he stepped up and took a lot of responsibility, a lot of leadership out on the fire ground and in the community in general. He was often the person that would put people's minds at rest when they were getting very anxious, they didn't know the full facts. Scott would come in with a very level-headed and practical response as to what was actually happening. You can often think that things are far worse than what they actually are, even though at times they were pretty bad, but you do need somebody in the know to take the lead and reassure people.
Yeah, well, we put in some pretty long hours. I think one of my biggest days was 18 hours. I think we signed out of here at 3:20 in the morning. And that was a really horrendous day. That was the day that Araluen sort of went up, and we knew that Amy's family was in danger and they actually lost their home.
We put the cars and filled them all up with stuff from the house, all our favourite stuff, things that the kids had made when they were at school. And our neighbour came down from up the back too. This is like 2 o'clock in the morning, middle of the night. And then we put tin all around the sheds here, and around the house we had wrapped it all up with isolation. And the next few days after that, still the fire hadn't come, and we put sprinklers on the roof and, you know, getting prepared to fight the fire. But the day it came, it was so hot, and they'd predicted big winds and southerlies, and so we came down and fed the horses, and I left the gate open and we just got out of here. And on
the looks of the guys' faces that had been in Araluen that day, they kind of gave us little sympathetic looks and said, you know, wish you all the best, I hope it didn't get you. And
40 years we've lived in this house, and when we first came here it was worth $150, and we'd put all our work into this house. Every year we'd put another bit on, new tin, and then we'd do up the floor, we'd put a kitchen in, a new kitchen and a new bathroom, and we lost the house and we lost the sheds.
And to see all of that gone, and to know that when you come down here you can't walk through the door and see Mum and Dad sitting there at the bench asking to put the kettle on, you know, it's hard to see them lose everything that they've built. From one day to the next it's here and then it's gone.
There's always next year, and that's the farmer's lot, you know, like if we didn't do so good this year, next year will be a better year, you know. Yeah, you never give up. Go and get some veggies off Troy and fruit off Dave and Ken and bring it up and try and be there on a Friday. That's my favourite day in town. Potatoes from Harrison's. Look at Troy's tomatoes. They're delicious. If it ever rains again, we'll start again. Try and provide veggies for you guys in Braidwood.
And working with the Mozzies this time round was quite good. It was actually reminiscent of what things used to be like, with all the landowners getting together. We were able to work together. We had one fellow that we could contact, and he would contact us before a given day, and we were able to really coordinate with the Mozzies, and they were actually so invaluable on this fire, or these fires that happened, because we were a bit short on resources because there was fires everywhere, and it was just really fantastic to actually rely on these Mozzies at time, and you could tell them to be somewhere, and these guys were looking after any other bit of country that we couldn't get to on the time, so it was just incredibly valuable.
By the 10th of January, local mosquito groups had gained a wealth of experience, coordinating local meetings to plan and strategize with increased sophistication. On a day that experienced 39-degree temperatures and southeasterly winds at 48 kilometers an hour, this proved a valuable additional resource for the RFS crews.
The fire is still active north of there, sort of between Nerriga Road and the Shoalhaven River. In little pockets, it's isolated bits and pieces through that active edge. Yep. And crews are working hard around properties at the moment.
Right, okay.
We've come down here to the fire. It's just up the road from my house. So there's quite a lot of units, there's quite a lot of mosquitoes here. It's getting very smoky. It's just over the hill there.
Mate, you're just going past us, I presume? Oh, that's the one. Are you right for some of them to relocate? What would you like to do, mate? Yeah, you can peel a couple off, mate. We're almost at the end of this witching hour, over. Receive that. No worries, a couple of us peel off, I'll leave. Well, how many do you want left? Right, did I count about 6 or 7 there before? Yeah, 6 of us. Yeah, okay. We might actually get through this day without any more carnage, over. Got a secondary starting up down in the south side, over. Do you want them up where the two-storey house is, or are you happy to leave them here? I'd leave them just where you are, mate, because that's where, if we lose them, mate, that's where it's going to pop out from. Yeah, receive that. Yeah, give them a big thanks, mate. Mighty effort from everybody, so, yeah, thanks very much. If you can let them know down the track when you're done with it, that'd be great. Yeah, I will, mate. Probably within the hour, I'd say, from now.
It's a pretty long front now, and so getting up to the
Well, they're giving us an indication of where to go.
And the poor rooskies, yeah, man, they've been coming out of the bush all afternoon.
Yeah, we were going to stop down there, and it's just got so much dust, couldn't see what was happening, and you couldn't see the flames, and they were from here to the tree away at one point, and then not being able to see, so we kept driving.
This is the containment line we're on, and the RFS is up there stopping, and there's a few mosquitoes here trying to do that as well. But it's slowed down, it's come out of the forest a bit, so we're just keeping an eye on it.
Can you hear the echoes on the wind? Can you hear the giant footsteps landing? Don't be afraid of what's round the bend, 'cause you're the fire and I'm oxygen. This feels almost like war. This feels very much like war. Streaming round the side of the mountain. Now remember, boy, to smile as you do heed. Cleave your way through them. Don't be afraid of those mountain men, 'cause you're the fire and I'm oxygen. Hey, this feels almost like war. This feels almost different. War. All around you, so hold your head up high and look those suckers straight into their souls by their fearful eyes. Don't be afraid, or at least pretend, 'cause you're the fire and I'm oxygen. Hey, this feels a little like war. This feels almost different. War. So cut 'em down with your simple truth and show them how your forebears are prepared and ready to. Don't be afraid as I meet my end, 'cause you're the fire and you're oxygen. Hey, this feels kind of like war. This feels almost definitely like war.
This is the aftermath of the fire that went through Barlagen last Friday. It started over on Nerriga Road, which is about 6 kilometres away from here, and then roared essentially down through the Mongala River Valley. Took about an hour or two to get here, and it was a very big fire front by the time it got here, and just came straight in over the hills there. Got into the pine plantation on the other side of the river, and then just burnt right up through the valley here at Barlagen. This is the Back Creek Valley, and as you can see, it was contained here at this containment line, and then the fire burnt right up over the back there. There's about 500 acres in behind this point here, and then over into Tarrawarra. It really was a community effort fighting this fire. This is right at the end of Back Creek Road here, in the middle of nowhere, but when the fire was coming through, a lot of people showed up, RFS, a lot of locals with their utes and their water tanks on the back to help fight this fire from Mongalo and in around Durrandurra, and even as far away as Farringdon. We had people come here to help with the fire and brought water, so you know, it was a great effort to get around this, because if it had got across this containment line, this is the containment line which they were calling the last stand.
All right, Braidwood FM and Gordon back again. And as mentioned, I have Leanne on the phone to give us a report. Good morning, Leanne.
Good morning, Gordon. How are you going?
Yeah, look, well, thanks. With the Charlie's Forest fire, I see that's been listed as being controlled today.
Correct, and crews we are calling it an aggressive mop-up, so mopping up is, I'm sure your listeners know what mopping up the fire is,
yes.
But they are full on into that today. Yeah, that's pretty safe, that one.
Right, so there's probably not going to be a lot more information come out about the Charlie's Forest fire from this point on, is there?
No.
Okay.
No, not much.
All right. Terrific.
Right, thanks for that.
Thanks, Leanne.
See ya.
Bye. And so I think what we've done as a community station is to show what we can do for our community as a community. And look, it reinforces the need for local radio. And a lot of people have said to us that, you know, the local level of information that you're giving in these updates has just been so much better than anything else out there. It's the people that have phoned in or dropped in to, you know, help provide additional information. You know, the Phil on the hills, the Matt on the flat, the Dave in the ditch, the Maria in the manor, Dave Cooper who sent in photos, Nick Kemp who sent in photos, the various people on Facebook who has messaged us and sent in information during the course of these updates has just been phenomenal. I think it's a significant point in time for us, this 16th of January.
When the North Black Range fire sort of kicked in, I was listening intently, worrying about it sort of heading towards Waurai and getting into the Shoalhaven River and coming up the river north towards us and coming in behind us. So that was my personal fear. So I was up just watching. And after a couple of trips up on the hill, I thought, so, well, maybe town would like to hear what's going on, because I had a view from Doughboy right down through past Kawarri, down to the mountains down behind the coast. I could just see forever. I had a really good vantage point. I could park my car facing due south, and I'd get out with my technology to check the wind, and which I hadn't have with me.
Can you explain the technology?
I can. Gordon named it. This was the technology. We'd sort of swing around. I knew where my car was facing, so we'd pick up the wind direction
And wind speed was pretty close with this, so it certainly was.
I can remember when you were giving those readings that I was looking at the bomb site at the time, and you were always within a few kilometres of what the bomb was saying.
Really, all I did was sit and listen to Braidwood FM. I mean, they were such a lifeline for everybody, and the updates and the conciseness, got them to the street, got them to the road, so you could. I've got a map I was filling in at the time while they were doing that to, say where the fire went. Oh, absolutely wonderful. I mean, they must be so weary now, but no, it really proved itself as our community radio did, Braidwood FM.
And so many people immediately responded, and not amazed me, because small communities do this anyway, pull together fantastically, work very well together, and all any disputed sort of little differences are forgotten.
We're the Total Fire Band, and this is the Volunteers Lament.
Well, I thought I heard the captain say, pay me my money down. Tomorrow is your training day. Pay me my money down. Oh,
Here we are, Hazelwood Farm, Farmers Market, Braidwood. We're having a bumper day today.
pay me or go to jail. Pay me my money down. Years of drought, climate change. Pay me my money down. We knew that things were getting strange. Pay me my money down. Oh,
It's a small help from Nepal, thank you.
Nepal loves the mosquitoes. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my money down.
A lot of people are back and a lot of people walking in. It's busy again. There's people coming town to support town to spend a bit of money here now. Yeah, I'm happy again.
So, you guys have driven all the way from Sydney today because you heard.
Yes, we saw it on the TV set about Braidwood and all the country towns, so we often go for country drives. So we had breakfast at Windgillo and now we're walking the streets and my wife and I are popping and buying stuff.
Jen?
It's been unexpectedly busy, which is fantastic. We all need the business, and it's really good that everyone is coming out to support us. It's really nice. Yeah.
Pay me my money down. Pay me or go to jail. Pay me my money down. Well, every night when we got back, pay me my money down. The crew at the shed was where it was at. Pay me my money down.
Yeah, it was really quiet before the Clyde Mountain opened, but now it's really busy and it's really good and we're all loving it.
Pay me my money down. Well, Captain Watson, since you're here, pay me my money down. Get yourself a nice cold beer.
Looking out there at the red flag, you see, because that's the one we look at.
Yeah, Roger Official Weather Vane, it's called, that one on the green.
The Braidwood community has shown an extraordinary cohesion in coming together and offering little tidbits, everyone doing their small part, which contributes to the whole picture of dealing with this fire situation.
So this is our animal feeding station. So we're on the edge of Buttawang National Park, which is completely burned out. So there's not a lot of feed around for the animals. So we have been providing feed with the assistance of Bill Waterhouse and NARG. And we've got Economix, we've got sweet potatoes, apples, carrots, water, birdseed. And since the fires come through, we've been coming out here almost every day, and we find that whatever we put out gets eaten by the next day, which gives you a sense of the need.
I had a few issues today that started to backburn, and I was concerned that if we had a wind change that we might have some real troubles here at our place. So I tried ringing a couple of guys, couldn't get onto them. I then went on the WhatsApp app or whatever it is and contacted the Mozzies, and there's 10 guys out here now, and they're awesome. They're here ready to help me defend what we've got. this is all we've got, and if we lose it, we've got nothing. So if we get a wind change, then there's potential of ember attack here.
It's dark, mate. It's getting dark. The wind's picked up a fair bit, and it's so hard to know where it's coming from at the moment, isn't it?
Yes,
I mean, I'm guessing it's really the main bit of it's coming from over that way.
Yep. It's really changed direction now. It's coming straight at us.
Yeah. Bit of luck, it might just skip us altogether.
Lake George RFS declared a Section 44 emergency from the 28th of November, which lasted well into February. During that time, hundreds of thousands of hectares were consumed. Fires continued to burn in some areas across the district as the community was already orchestrating ways to help and heal, assist and rebuild. Showing the same spirit of cooperation, the same energy harnessed in defense of the district was equaled in efforts of regeneration.
So after the fire, we had a lot of people asking us how they can help us. They'd heard our story, they liked what we were doing. Early on in the piece, we weren't really too sure at all, but there's an awful lot of work to do to clean up after a fire's been through. So we just made a bit of an open invitation to people for a bushfire recovery working bee. Didn't know if anyone would bother turning up, and we've had about 40 people turn up today. So we've got plenty of hands on deck, and we're doing all sorts of things. We've got people doing a bit of replanting of blackwoods, we're cleaning up the orchard, getting rid of melted pipes, bringing down burnt timber that's in the way. We've got someone with a tractor here, moving the soil around from containment lines that were bulldozed during the fires. So it's a first stage in whatever comes next.
Yeah, my experience here at Braidwood at the Blaze Aid camp has just been an extraordinary experience, very humbling experience and overwhelming at times. I remember walking onto my first property that had been burnt out and the smell of the burnt trees, and to actually speak to the farmer and watch him tear up because he had actually seen his house burn down. And that to me is just incredible stuff.
And the value of the work, which is if we were to charge, which we didn't, but if we were to charge $30 an hour for a 6.5 hour day, it would have been nearly 2.4 million. So I'm pretty happy to be walking away and us put that sort of money back through your economy here. I hope it's
a huge amount of money. They try and buy locally for local businesses, which is just something unbelievable to help our businesses that have struggled during the drought and during the fires. It's just unbelievable.
One of the parts about showing strength and showing that we were there to support people is also the other side where we became very emotional. I'd see Scott and Craig coming in to the branch just to give us updates. They'd look exhausted, but they were such strong people to help us get through. We would then go and see other people and hear about their stories about their properties being destroyed, or they might have lost stock or something, and it devastated them, and it then throws onto us, and we feel that passion and that emotion as well, and think, how can I help this person? How can I help this family? How can I help this community if it's a small community out of town? You just want to try and do your best to help everybody, because they always say we're all in this together, and that's what we are. We're all in this together.
Just a big thank you again to everyone that's come out to support the Redbacks Bushfire Rugby's appeal. Obviously Braidwood has been impacted pretty badly by the fires for our whole region, and it's wonderful to see people coming from as far as Sydney, Canberra, the coast to come and support our local community. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're all enjoying this great day.
It's raining and it's fantastic. It's been coming down. It's just going to keep coming for another day or two. So this is just fantastic for the community and for extinguishing these fires that have been around for so long.
It felt as if we were never going to see the end of the drought and fires. When the torrential rains began pouring down on the 6th of February, many could finally take a huge sigh of relief, knowing and prepared that as a community, we could take on whatever in nature comes next.
I've been stuck in the wrong side of
So here we are, 2 years on from Black Summer. There are many and varied reasons why the fires came about, why they were so intense, and why they were so widespread. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a point of view. With that subject aside, my reflections looking back are fairly simple. I saw people coming together, differences put aside, and compassion emerged for a shared outcome. Sure, firefighters putting wet stuff on the hot stuff is obviously the most important thing. But as we saw, the people who stepped up, they weren't always on a fire truck. Catastrophic events can be polarising, but they can also bring communities together.
I was driving around there one night and I thought I'll go and see my friend, Gilles. And when I got to his house, I said, "You've got such a beautiful house." I said, it's just so nice. And I just cried and cried, and he gave me a big hug, and he just said, "Oh, Con, I'm so sorry." And there's nothing you can do, but you got your memories and you got your friends.
I was really overwhelmed, but also not surprised that so many people did everything that they could to help out.
One day out of the 50-odd days, one afternoon, one early evening, and you hit the wall. I hit the wall. I'd run out myself. I just run out of anything and everything. But I didn't take long then to look around the paddock, and you'll see the other crews going for it, and the Mozzies and the RFS and all and sundry. And then it made me realise, just go, right, you just keep going, make the best of what you've got. It was a hard night. I wouldn't want to repeat it in a hurry, but by the following day you were good.
It was hard for everybody, really, wasn't it? You know, yeah. Amy could tell you, we had to be more than just cooks, didn't we? You know, we helped them out with big hugs and welcoming them and
pats on the back.
As bad as the fires were, it has created a lot of new friendships, and a lot of good things have actually come out of what happened. So,
how do you silence half a dozen fairly boisterous firefighters? Have a fire truck from King Lake in Victoria turn up to help.
We just put on little tiny events down at the hall, and we were just absolutely gobsmacked at how many people come out of the community and turned up to these events. And it just showed us that the community heals themselves if they get together and have a good time and then all talk about the same stories and realise they're not the only person that lost all their fences and their crops and their cattle, and they're not the only person who are struggling with coping with all this.
Just an illusion of something worth reaching for.
We did this, we got through it, and I think that's something to be really proud of, and something that the town, I think, will hold close to its heart for many, many years to come. In 15 or 20 years' time, there might be a fire near here, and some old codger like me will say to their grandkid, "You call that a fire? I can tell you about a fire."
And if anyone's got any tea tree left on their places after this, expect a stern letter from me.
broken dreams, and ash and twisted tin. Heartbreak held your fire and brimstone, stole our precious years. Blindest torches, but you just watch us fight back through our tears. We've got our memories, we've got our friends, we've got our stories, and they'll never end. Every tomorrow we'll rise again. Oh, we've got our memories, we've got our friends. The aftermath is after all what we're all living through. But now it's always us together, not just me and you. Cry for country, wish the wild, survive the fearful loss. Time to heal and learn the real lesson